Welcome to the Day 2 podcast, where today's topic is 20 takeaways from the Amazon Accelerate conference that Shannon and I both recently attended in Seattle. I'm Jason Boyce, founder and CEO of Avenue 7 Media, co-author of The Amazon Jungle, now available on Audible, and the host of the Day 2 podcast. And with me today is Shannon Roddy, educator, biz dev guru here at Avenue 7 Media, and jack of all trades with all things Amazon. Shannon, welcome. And how's the jet lag from going back to Atlanta from your Seattle trip?
It's good. I'm almost caught up. I think a really good shot of coffee today at 4:00 will probably get me back on track. But it's about 10 hours door to door. The flight's only 4.5 hours, but 10 hours door to door with a 3-hour time change is a little brutal. But I had such a good time at Accelerate. It really surpassed my expectations. And one of my favorite parts, Jason, was just getting to meet and connect with so many of the amazing Amazon employees. I mean, talking to the project managers, the product managers, software developer engineers. I mean, people who are so passionate about helping sellers on a personal level and whip smart. And so I just had so much fun engaging and hearing their desire to truly help brands and empower brands, even though it doesn't always come through or translate through some of the bureaucracy. Individually, they shared a collective desire to really help brands succeed. So for me, that was sort of the highlight that I enjoyed, but I also know we have a lot of great takeaways as well. So why don't you kick it off and share your first highlight that you got out of Amazon Accelerate?
Yeah, well, I just want to tack on to what you said. I agree. I had sort of low expectations on the way to the show. In fact, I even questioned whether I should go or not, but I'll tell you, I'll be back next year if they'll let me in. And because it was really valuable. My concern was that this was going to be too much of an Amazon commercial. And look, there was plenty of that. Right. There were some things that were a little odd. I mean, you could see these gigantic teleprompters in the middle of the room. All of the Amazon employees were reading word for word. You could literally turn around and read exactly what they were saying. Sometimes it felt a little robotic, a little unnatural, especially Shannon, because we're used to the Prosper show where people just get up there and let it hang out. So, it was very tight. It was very focused. But I have to say, I agree with you 100%. I had a lot of wonderful conversations with Amazon employees. I think there was only one that made me frustrated, dealing with a client issue that they couldn't really help with, but it wasn't really their fault. It wasn't his fault. And he seemed kind of new to the game. Right. But overall, 2 thumbs up for Amazon Accelerate. I expected Dharmesh Mehta to be in there. We got to see Doug Harrington, the new CEO of Worldwide, who recently took over for Dave Clark, who had taken over for Jeff Wilke. And I've got to say, Doug was really presented really well. He seemed sympathetic to Amazon sellers. Yeah. He was very likable on stage, said all the right things, and gave away some insights too, I think, in terms of their thinking moving forward. So, I agree with you, Shannon. I'm really glad I went. I got to hang out with you, and hang out with my buddy Jerry Cavish, and a lot of other folks that are the standards that you see at every one of the Amazon trade shows, all those friends.
Yeah, but I absolutely agree. It was definitely recommended and there was good content. I mean, and the production value was amazing. It felt like everything was organized very well. They did a really good job, and the food and the after parties, like that's part of the fun as well, as getting to hang out with people afterwards. And so I think from Jason and Shannon, you get 2 thumbs up for Amazon Accelerate. Yeah. Register for next year. And I think, Jason, I'll double check, but I think that if you missed it, you can go and register online and watch those sessions on demand. I would highly recommend it. We'll put that in our show notes because I think it was that valuable for sellers and agency owners or consultants as well to get some of those new updates that are going to be rolling out, so they've got a heads up. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Shannon, I always love getting Amazon stats, at least the ones that they're willing to share at the conference. And
100%.
And they shared some interesting ones. One which didn't really jive with metrics that I count on from our friend Marketplace Joe at Marketplace Pulse, which was that 70,000 sellers do $100,000 or more on Amazon.
Yeah, that one stood out to me.
That really seemed considerably less than our friend Joe's comments. I mean, we have metrics that we share about 350,000 sellers doing $100,000 or more in sales. So that was curious to me. And I'm not sure if I misheard it or didn't quite capture the note correctly, Shannon, but did you hear that as well? Did it seem like it was 70,000?
That's what they said, but was that global? Was it worldwide? Was it specific marketplaces? I mean, there's a lot of ways you can slice data, and that's something we both know and understand. You can look at every piece of data from multiple angles, but I mean, if that's true, that obviously it's great. We want as many sellers as possible to be successful. And again, I think there was another part that surprised me is I heard nuances from the stage, slight comments that said, we understand that you're not happy about everything we're doing. We understand that there's some frustration. That was publicly acknowledged. And I think that was
repeatedly public.
Repeatedly. And I think that was really good, at least to build that modicum of trust of, we hear you, we understand that there's some frustration in the seller community, and we are concerned about that. The big test is, what will Amazon do to fix and change that? And I'm optimistic, because I'm always optimistic, but more so than anything, it's about us learning how to leverage the things that Amazon is releasing and is giving us, so that as brand owners, we can maximize our experience on the Amazon platform.
Yeah, agreed. And another interesting stat that came out is they shared their estimates that sellers provide 1.5 million jobs. And so my guess is that those are US numbers. For those
they said U.S. jobs. That one specifically was
US jobs
for U.S.
So for those keeping score, Amazon has about 1 million employees. So the sellers who are selling on Amazon, a very high percentage of those are selling on at least more than Amazon and at least one other platform. But that's 1.5 million jobs provided from brand owners, resellers. I'm sure arbitrageurs are in the mix there, retail arbitrageurs, but that is a very big number that eclipses Amazon's own employee numbers by quite a few.
Yeah. Look, I'd be out of a job, right? So, I mean, I've made my living. What
the hell else are we going to do?
I know. We'd be on the street with signs saying, we'll wash cars for food. So, a lot of great takeaways. But Jason, let's get into dive into some of the meat. Let me just say one more stat too.
Is the other interesting thing, it was a very big show, Shannon. I mean, they claimed that there were 2,500 in-person guests. It felt that way. I remember walking through and meeting someone at the very last day of the show going, have you been here the whole time during the show? I'm like, yeah, I've been walking everywhere. He goes, how did I not see you? And it's because it was a very big show. There was 2,500 people. There were 9,000 who virtually signed up that they shared. So look, I mean, kudos to Amazon. I don't want to give them too much credit, but like you said, let's dive in here and talk about some of these really interesting features. Now, full disclosure, some of these capabilities and new functionality, they have been rolling out since the beginning of the year, especially over the last 90 days. Some are yet to be rolled out in full force. So there's a mixed bag here. Some launched at the show, but number one on my list of roughly 20 is this new functionality called tailored audiences. So before, you had the ability to send an email to followers to your brand store, but they've added 3 other ways to reach out to customers. One is followers, repeat customers. Now you can also send emails to your most recent customers. So recency plays into it. And then last but not least, your biggest spending customers.
Which is huge.
It's huge. I mean, you can do that by template. They even said that they are allowing some HTML custom emails. Now, this is within Amazon's walled garden, Shannon. So it's not like they're going to give you the email and the contact information of the shopper. But this is a big ad. I mean, how'd you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. It obviously depends on how well you foster and cultivate that relationship. So do you have a brand storefront? Do you do Amazon Post or Amazon Lives in sort of an attempt to sort of gain followers and engaged followers and customers? And it obviously means you have to be doing a certain threshold of sales to even have past customers to reach out to. And of course, the biggest question is, do you have an expansive SKU line so that you're not just pitching the same product? Because if it's sort of a one-off purchase, right? If you sold a washing machine, probably not going to sell me another washing machine. So I think for companies and brands that have a multiple, sort of a wide diversity of products and can upsell, cross-sell, resell, I think it's a huge opportunity. And I love Amazon anytime they give us the ability to personalize or customize something with a little bit of a brand feel, tone, or language.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's great. The real shocker was the buy with Prime, which we'll get to in a few, where for the first time, Amazon will allow you to drive traffic from the Amazon platform to a branded store. So we'll get to that one in a second, but it definitely feels, over the course of 20 years, we witnessed, Amazon shrinking the visibility to the Amazon customer. This is a little crack in the door. They're opening it up a little bit more, which is very interesting. The next subject that I thought was cool was badges. We call this the badges section, and they've got this new functionality where you can be listed as a small business. The Black Business Accelerator is very interesting. Kudos to Amazon for doing this to introduce more diversity in the seller community. I think that's been a big success. The one thing that's odd to me about the small business badge, I started to get really excited, and I thought, Shannon, literally all of our clients could probably, most of our clients, I should say, the majority could fall under the small business badge category. But then they said there's this requirement that it has to be handmade. Did you catch that as well? And how did you read that?
I didn't catch that because that's a pretty big difference, versus handmade and small business.
Yeah.
I do also remember, they also have a female founder, business owner, which is also really critical for that, expanding that diversity. But yeah, anytime you sort of present something as one thing and then, have it severely limited and handicapped, that makes a big difference. But I think small businesses, when people see that they can support small businesses, they often want to do that. And I think to some extent, the challenge that we've seen historically, like over the last 10 years is, do I support small businesses or do I buy on Amazon? Yeah. And I think the opportunity, what people would like to be able to see is I can support small businesses by choosing the sellers that I buy from on Amazon and actually merge the two. So that would certainly be my desired goal. But no, I didn't catch that handmade piece because that, is a
I got really excited, I was getting inflated, and then like the air was let out of the balloon when they said handmade. I'm like, well, wait a minute, what? Now we do. I did jot down a couple of our clients who make these amazing handmade products, but sort of the next one here is the Launchpad. How they're removing that. You used to be able to get Launchpad if you paid an additional 5%, and there were all kinds of benefits that came along with it. They've eliminated that 5% fee. So Launchpad is very interesting. I love seeing. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a client and said, "Look, Launchpad would be great for you, but I don't know that you can take another 5% in margin. I'd rather put that 5% of sale into advertising and clicks." And so now we don't have to say that anymore, Shannon. We can go right to clients and say, "Hey, this is a brand new, cool, exciting product. Let's see if we can get our Launchpad folks to approve it."
Yeah, no, I saw that as well, and I actually spoke to somebody at the Launchpad, booth. They have different booths for all the different sort of departments within Amazon, whether it was brand protection or Launchpad, et cetera. But the ability to run multiple deals without fees and to even get some additional budget, advertising budget, and just some additional exposure, really, really critical. So I'm excited. And it doesn't mean you have to be a brand new company or a brand new product. There's just some thresholds that you have to be able to meet or be under. And so, I got really excited about that one as well. I have not traditionally used Launchpad for a lot of the clients that I had worked with previously to Av7, but I know Justin and Teresa and some of our other amazing, account executives and our team here at Av7, they swear by it, for the right client.
Yeah, and look, in the old days, you used to have to have a Vendor Central account. So I used to play this trick where I would launch the product with Vendor Central just via Launchpad. And then I would run it out of inventory and take over the listing from the third-party seller account because it had so many benefits. Of course, now it's third-party. It's been third-party for a while, and eliminating those fees is great. There were also a lot of mention about credits that come along with these programs, some as much as $50,000 for new sellers that apply for some of these. And I would love to see a page on Amazon if I'm asking here for my wish list. I'd love to see what credits are available, so that it's easier to find what credits are available. Amazon doesn't do a good job of communicating those, in my opinion. I'd love to see more about that. But again, Really great way to get started on Amazon. You can take those credits and put it toward advertising to drive your rank and get more clicks.
Yeah.
The next one, which was really interesting, and I know Amazon has been really trying for a long time to make Alexa a real sales channel. I think they've been less than successful in that. However, they've launched this new topic called Customers Ask Alexa. Shannon, do you remember the exact example that they gave?
Yes, it was. I think it was sort of like a pet product, like a pet brush. How do I get fur out of pet fur out of carpet? And you're like, okay, well, that's cool. But what they're saying is, as customers, right, begin using Alexa to ask questions, and it's relevant to your product, it actually gives the ability to begin to feed Alexa with suggestions that refer back to your product. What else do you remember from that one? Because I'm
just impressed that you remembered that it was about the pet fur. That was it. It was like, you ask the Echo device. I can't say the real name because I've got one. I forgot to unplug it before recording. But you ask, how do you get pet fur off of your couch or something like that? And it gave instructions on how to do that, sort of almost like DIY type instructions. But if you're an Amazon seller and you sell a product that helps reduce hair off of your couch, then you can go into Seller Central and you can go to a tab called Customers Ask Alexa. Apologies, I don't remember exactly where you can get it, where you can access it. But if you go in and do a search for Customers Ask Alexa, you can see which products, which category questions related to your products are being asked. You can go in and you can answer the questions very clearly if your product solves that question. And then the next time somebody asks, the Echo device this question, your product could be advertised or it could be selected. So they didn't go so far as to say you have to advertise on it. I imagine that's where this is going in the future. Right. But it's very interesting. It's a very interesting way because many times people want to know what to buy to solve their problem. And if you do a good job of going in there and answering those common questions about what your products can do, it could be a big boost for your business, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it, these are potentials, right? It's not proven ROI yet. It's, what Amazon posts were even a year ago. It's like, okay, we know they're new. Not a lot of people are doing them because they're new. So if you do them early, it may give you a competitive edge. Those answers do get moderated by Amazon, obviously. So you have to write it in a way that's actually providing value to the end user.
Stick to the facts, ma'am. Just the facts would be our
Stick to the facts. But the idea that you could get essentially, similar to Post, free advertising is huge. And this is where I had some really great conversations. Yeah, exactly. I had some really great conversations with some Amazon team members talking about, as a brand owner, you've got to focus on the most important things in order. And once you do the nuts and bolts, then you can go off and do these sort of additional things with a question mark in terms of the ROI. It's high level brand awareness, right? If you're not advertising right, if your listings aren't optimized, you're not doing the blocking and tackling that we always talk about, don't waste time on these things yet. Get all those other things in place and then spend some free time playing around with these because I think they're potential opportunities, but the end result is, yet to be determined or known.
So, it's interesting. They haven't given up the ghost there with the Echo devices trying to turn those things into a sales channel, but it's definitely exciting from a brand perspective to be able to get your name mentioned when folks are asking the question. A+ got some news. And we knew about this a couple of months ago that Premium A+ was starting to be rolled out to more and more sellers. Ultimately, I think it'll be available to everyone. But this is what stuck with me on this one, Shannon, is Amazon folks said that A+ gets about 8.5% lift in sales if your listing does not, compared to if your listing does not have A+. Now, that's a regular A+.
Right.
With the Premium A+, they said that more than doubles to almost a 20% lift in sales with Premium A+ details section, which was kind of staggering. 20% is significant. I've seen these Premium A+. Our team has done a couple of these as they've become available. It seems like this is a no-brainer for Amazon. It's a no-brainer for sellers as well. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, to know that you can have A+ content and essentially double that conversion rate that A+ adds is mind-boggling. And I think there's always opportunity and room for growth. And the conversations that I had after that was announced with some of the other sellers and brands was that's an aggregate, right? That's an average. So people who do A+ content poorly,
Yeah.
right? Actually fall on the low end of that. I've only seen like a 1%
Yeah.
increase or a 2%. Imagine the ones that are doing well getting that 30 or 40% lift in sales. That's sort of getting factored into that average. So for me, these are the things where I said that's data generated, ROI driven, decision. 100%. You should take the time to add A+ premium content to your listing and make sure you do it well. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Do it and do it well. So I love those stats. I memorized them immediately. I don't know why I forget, what I'm supposed to buy at the grocery store, but I remember bizarre Amazon facts from years ago. I remember these bizarre stats. So the way my mind works, but yeah, I think it's really great. And I'm really excited, even having conversations with some of those team members, what they're planning on doing and what we can do eventually with A+ content is just going to be exciting.
The aggregate data is a really important point because the numbers that I remember was 10 to 12% lift in sales for A+. But as you say, this is an aggregated number. It makes sense. There's some really bad A+ details pages out there, so those probably don't perform as well. Speaking of almost doubling conversion rates, the new buy with Prime information and features and benefits that they're rolling out kind of blew me away, Shannon. They shared on stage that shoppers, I should say brands that have the Shop with Prime badge on their direct-to-consumer website, whether that's a BigCommerce website or a Woot, or I should say a WooCommerce or even Shopify, they see a 40% increase in on-site conversions, 40, which is a huge number. And I've always felt this deep down, Shannon, that one of the reasons why Amazon converts so much better, first of all, they got the big selection, but even it's beyond that. If you go to a direct-to-consumer website and you've never bought from them before, you have to pull out your credit card. You have to enter your credit card. And if you're on your mobile device, it's even worse. I heard Jason Goldberg on stage say one time, you almost need 3 hands to buy online on mobile. And you don't need that. You don't need that if you buy an Amazon Prime app. But now with this new feature on your own direct-to-consumer website, you can do it. So the increase in conversion rate was huge. But this one absolutely floored me. So whoever gets that sale on their website, they keep that customer information, number one. But number two, you can now drive sponsored advertising ads from Amazon to your direct-to-consumer website if you're approved for the program. Whoa. I never thought I would see the day where Amazon would be able or be open to sending traffic from Amazon to a direct-to-consumer website. Was that as big a surprise for you as it was for me, Shannon?
Yes and no. And the reason, like on one side, it's like, oh my gosh, Amazon is all about, other website traffic. The Amazon, great. Amazon to your website, never, right? That's sort of the thing, is like never. And you've talked about, if Amazon takes DSP and faces it outward, they're going to own the market, right? And I think, so part of it is looking at it from a standpoint of understanding that people do want to have their D2C websites. Amazon's already introduced Amazon Pay, so you can pay on your Shopify storefront. Customers can pay on the Shopify storefront with the Amazon Pay app. But the reality is it's a little complicated, to be honest, to use like a ShipStation or whatever in the back end and say, okay, I've got my website and I send all my inventory to FBA, but it's hard for me to fulfill my own website orders. And so we sort of do this back-end complex thing of, okay, people buy through their website and then it gets, connected to Amazon as a multi-channel fulfillment, and then it get, kicked back to your Shopify storefront. And so I think Amazon's willing to do it for 2 reasons. One, they understand that there's a strong desire to have a D2C presence. And 2, they own enough market share that it's not going to hurt them likely to give some of that away. And 3, and this is probably the most important thing, it's still paying like through the Amazon app, and they still got the fulfillment. Yeah. So it's about sort of having those clauses in there somewhere of, we're still making money off the transaction. We've still got the customer data because we know who we're shipping to. Like there's still this element of Amazon still getting something from the deal, even though they're opening it up. They still know that 65-75% of all customers are going to Amazon.com first. But I think they've sort of seen that aspect that, it makes it easier for sellers who want to drive more traffic to their D2C website. And it'll be really interesting to see, Jason, if you have two brand ads, one driving internal to Amazon and one driving to your DTC website, even with Buy with Prime, what does that look like? I think those are, again, things that I'm really excited to see could be great opportunities for our clients and beyond.
And look, fair warning to our seller audience. This is a very new program, but it's clear that they are putting big dollars behind supporting it. I think Joe from Marketplace Pulse did a really interesting post about Buy with Prime recently that said the number of clicks that you have to go through in order to finally get to that brand store are kind of prohibitive right now. So I'm certain that if what you're saying is true, Shannon, I believe it to be the case, and Amazon wants to transcend what's going on in Amazon and be on the greater e-commerce space as well and capture some of that market share as well, they'll continue to fine tune this. But, very exciting program. It's a way to unify inventory into one location. Probably not quite yet. There was one other downside to the Buy with Prime, and a really talented brand owner was on stage and said, if someone comes to my store and they want to buy product A and product B, they can't combine them yet in their Prime cart in order to have them both ship. But they did say on stage that those edits and updates are coming. So it's by no means perfect, but it's definitely a new day for Amazon, in my opinion, that you can also get the Prime badge on your advertising. So you'd mentioned which ads will perform better. You can literally put your Prime badge on a Facebook ad, on a Google PPC ad, whatever it is, and bring it to your store. So just a lot of cool and interesting stuff. Yeah. Like you, Shannon, I'm going to grab some popcorn and watch this one evolve. It's going to be very interesting. The next one, AWD, was another, like Amazon needs another acronym like they need a hole in the head. But AWD stands for Amazon Warehouse and Distribution. Probably a lot more fluff than substance here right now, but Amazon saw this problem of long-term storage. They're clearly trying to push more brands into long-term storage. It's only available for regular size. Oversize is not an option yet. So if you're using a third-party logistics company for long-term storage and FBA prep, you now have an option. And if it's small items, you can now send it to Amazon's upstream warehouse. It was kind of commonly referred as upstream warehouse several times, but it's a very interesting idea. You can have Amazon pick up your ocean container at your factory. You can have them bring it across the ocean. You can have it go into long-term storage where the long-term storage fees are considerably less. And then they have a fee structure, which is interesting. They will only charge you a fee on the volume size of your product to fulfill into FBA centers. But those who've used it, according to the folks on stage, said that there's a 64% decrease in out of stocks in FBA. So that's definitely a bonus. Mm-hmm. And, this is a very interesting program. I'm a little bit nervous, Shannon, for some of those third-party logistics companies that are out there, because I think that this is probably too soon of a launch for Amazon, but as they continue to fine tune this, it's going to be just too hard for sellers to say no to store their inventory with them long-term and have Amazon worry about fulfilling it to the FBA centers.
And Jason, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it really is on both sides. On one side, Amazon, with their amazing infrastructure, with their technology, with the brilliant people they have, they're able to do things that they can create opportunities and solutions that are more cost effective than a seller might be able to put together.
And it also helps to have
even
$80 billion in cash on your balance sheet, just as a quick aside.
It does, right? And on the other side, so you're like, wow, this solves my problem. It's actually going to be more cost effective. On the other side, as a very honest part of the double-edged sword is, it means you're giving Amazon one more part that your business relies on them for. And I'm not saying that's entirely bad, but I'll state this at the highest level: over-reliance on any one company for any part of your business is bad, right? Because if anything, if the pin drops, whatever, something happens, that's it. And so, that's the same as any company that says, like, we only rely on UPS for our shipping, right? And then UPS has a massive change or goes on strike, right? Those are the kind of things that you have to be aware of. So yes, could be some great opportunity, but you always want to maintain some level of diversification so that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that the AWD folks announced on stage was some expansion in the local selling section. So if you have a small brick and mortar store at your location in your town, you can offer a program called Amazon Today is another name for what they're offering. You can have someone, you can buy online, they can pick up in your store, or your warehouse, etc. Now, I haven't heard a lot of information about sellers using this program, but it seems very interesting. And I need to back up and describe BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store. BOPIS is kind of a funny nickname, speaking of acronyms for that. And look, Walmart.com is the undisputed world champion when it comes to BOPIS. I mean, the grocery business they do at the curb is pretty incredible. So I think Amazon's trying to sort of elbow into this sort of area as well, get behind folks who also have a brick and mortar store, expand their selection, expand their ability to deliver to their store, to bring in customers to have that face-to-face interaction to the retail location, which is kind of cool. I don't know, Shannon, do you know of anyone using this program? I don't know of a lot.
No, I mean, again, a lot of it, comes down to staffing and where your goals are and foot traffic versus, online distribution. So it really 100% depends on your business model. I think it could benefit us, maybe a small number of sellers, but it's really going to be very case specific in terms of who's going to benefit from that and how well it's going to work.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're about number 9 or 10 on our very long list here. So I'll try to speed it up.
No one else is keeping track. You're good.
Great. International selling was a topic on stage as well. This idea that you can list once and sell everywhere. They also were pushing the marketplace product guidance, the MPG functionality, which will make recommendations for products you're selling in the US in terms of other Amazon marketplaces, other countries where there's a demand for that product. And then they pushed this idea of the Amazon Seller Wallet. I have to say, when they announced the Amazon Seller Wallet, which is one location where you can house your cash, you can transfer cash, you can convert it to different currencies. I remember seeing Payoneer paying to be a presenter on the floor, thinking, wonder how Payoneer feels about Amazon pushing the Amazon Seller Wallet. And look, I don't know what the fees are. I didn't get any of that information. Maybe you did, but I know Payoneer is still a great deal. So international selling was probably, I don't want to say a nothing burger, but a little bit less exciting compared to some of the other stuff that we talked about, Shannon.
Well, but some of the things that they shared from the stage, I mean, in terms of the difference that a product makes, I mean, the success of a product that goes to the marketplace guidance versus ones that don't was exponential in terms of success and failure rate. So I do think that it adds incredible value. I've had personal experience of launching a product in the UK and find out it doesn't work there, right? There's not the same audience. There's not the same product market fit. As a side note, sort of a funny case example of that, I had a client years ago, and he had a bunch of products that he told his marketing manager, I want to send a bunch of these over to the UK, and wound up realizing that half of the products they had sent over were things like, American Pride and July 4th, products and stuff. You realize, okay, those are not going to sell well in the UK. Using the product market guidance would probably provide a little insight before you made those massive shipments. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So look, I mean, the marketplace product guidance, that MPG tool, is very interesting. I guess what I had in my mind too, Shannon, is if you've got a good Jungle Scout or Helium 10 account, you should be doing that homework anyway before you start sending a product. But to your point, it's free. It's included as part of your Seller Central account access, and it's straight from the horse's mouth. So it's definitely worth checking out, if nothing else, cross-checking it with your other providers. The next one was brand protection. We have a client who's really struggling with a counterfeit fraud problem. A bad actor's buying their product. They're opening the package with their branded product. They're removing it and putting a piece of junk in the box and then returning it. And Amazon returns folks aren't looking to make sure that what was returned is what was sold in the first place. And so the brand is really suffering right now. This was my one struggle that I had with some conversations, because I went to the brand protection booth, Shannon, and the first kid that I spoke to, he just didn't understand what I was getting at, couldn't understand the problem. But I think his boss later on, when I came back, gave some information that will help our performance team go after the people that are doing this bad acting. But the counterfeit crimes unit is legit, and we'll see. Maybe we can do another episode on this and let you know if we're able to have some success with them. But if you just Google Amazon counterfeit crimes unit, If you're experiencing counterfeit or fraud, you can submit your ticket where seller support was not able to be helpful, and state your claim. So they're listening. And the person on stage said they've spent in the last year $900 million and have 12,000 Amazon employees trying to address this counterfeit issue. In fact, I actually think that the use case that I just put out there with one of our clients is sort of a byproduct of them stopping some of the more obvious counterfeit claims. And these hucksters are finding cracks in the armor to get in there and to commit these crimes. But it's always impressive. That's a very big number. We're talking about almost $1 billion spent. I get a little bit less excited when you look at the denominator and you look at $600 billion in sales sold. I'd like to see them spend more than $1 billion a year to solve this problem because it's such a big problem. But to their credit, they've made a lot of good progress, and I hope they continue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the conversations I had was around the Apex program, which again allows you to file a utility patent infringement on Amazon. You essentially enroll and apply for this Apex program, which uses a patent mediator to evaluate your product versus other products, looking at the patent. And same thing, Jason, we had a client going through this process, and you have to go through the process. And they did share, they said, look, if you were to try to handle this on your own, I mean, it would be in the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to maybe combat that. I don't know how much IP, costs
cheap
for battling counterfeit, but yeah, it's not cheap. But the fact that they say on average, going through the Apex program takes 7 weeks. And basically as a brand owner, you have to put up $4,000. That's the current price. It may change. But $4,000, if nobody chooses to fight that or participate in the Apex program, you get your money back. And the fact that Amazon is allowing that and providing that, I mean, it took us a little longer than 7 weeks. But with this client, I was able to talk to some people in person and said, here's the complaint ID, here's the issue, here's what's going on. And whether it was timing or, an aspect of some of the people, shooting emails off and making those connections, the brand owner got their Apex ID about an hour ago. And that is huge because it's going to allow us as the utility patent holder to quickly shut down utility patent violators and infringers. And that's part of this launch, grow, and protect your brand strategy that we face. So I am incredibly thankful for programs like Apex. Sure. It was incredibly new. Nobody seemed to know how it worked. And so again, those are the kind of things that we'll probably come back and do an episode specifically on Apex just to provide that information. Because just like you, Jason, I didn't know that the counterfeit crimes unit existed until I went to Accelerate. And I think there's a lot of brand owners who are struggling with these different things and don't know that there are solutions. So in some cases, Amazon has the solution. On the other side of the coin, we got to make sure that the sellers know what those solutions are and how to navigate them on the Amazon platform.
It's a really good point, Shannon. And I think that's part of what they were attempting to do to, I think, some real success with the Amazon Accelerate conference. In their own admission, they've not been great at communicating to sellers the tools available, the changes that they're making. And, it just seemed like a good faith effort for them to reach out to the seller community. So, and great job on that Apex. One word of caution on the Apex program, we definitely need to do an episode on it, Shannon. If you don't have a strong patent and somebody else has a stronger patent, you could have your product kicked off of Amazon forever. So don't come with weak IP. You got to come with strong game if you're going to make that bet on yourself and on your product and on your patent. And luckily, our client had a really strong patent, and you and Justin did a great job with that.
That sounds like a cautionary tale, Jason.
It is. Don't do it if you don't believe in it, and if your patent isn't strong, you could be banned from Amazon if someone's got a stronger right. Moving on to the next thing. This one was I got really excited about this next one, Shannon. The Product Opportunity Explorer. And how many times have you and I talked about in the old days how I used to develop products, reading those negative reviews, identifying the themes of what real shoppers who've used their own money to buy a product are saying about the product, and then taking that to the product designers, the engineers, and fixing those products upon reorder. Well, guess what? Amazon just launched something called Customer Review Sentiment. I've literally been doing this for 20 years. And what they will
Yeah.
Manually. I've
Manually.
been doing it manually with spreadsheets for 20 years and a lot of people power, manpower. So Amazon now will take a look at all of the reviews for a given product and they will do sentiment analysis for you. They will pull out the themes and the threads, the top negative, the top positive. And I'm really excited about this. Not only is this good for sellers as they try to improve their product, this is good for consumers. This is giving information that matters in a clean, summarized fashion that can help make the next great billion-dollar product. So I was really excited about this one, as well as some new rollouts with the search analytics dashboard. You can certainly continue to use your Helium 10, your Jungle Scout products, but this is straight, again, right from the horse's mouth, and it's included with brand registry. This one got me excited, Shannon.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of value, and that's how Amazon works. They don't want to solve a specific use case. They want to figure out what are the trends, what are the storylines, how can I scale this? That's always Amazon's first question. How can I use an algorithm to make this scalable so that we don't have to have a person, right, or use a lot of manpower to figure out what the themes are for this product? One of the things I'm curious about, and I guess we'll have to find out and see because I don't remember if they covered it, is will it also include return comments? Will it include, good chance that it will or should, but the other place that things show up is in buyer seller messaging and seller feedback, right? You really need to aggregate all of that data in order to know what customers are thinking. And by the way, a shout out to Ecom Engine that runs Feedback 5. They released some data on the number of reviews and ratings per 100 orders. And the number of reviews is less than 0.61 per 100 orders. So less than one.
Shannon, the reviews you're talking about is where someone literally types their experience versus ratings, which is you just select your star rating and then move on. No words, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So star ratings is on average about 12 star ratings, per 100 orders, which is great. When Amazon released that, obviously products got way more ratings faster. But the feedback is less than 1 in 100 people will actually take the time to review your product, being able to capture that other customer data from buyer seller messaging, from return, comments, and in seller feedback, where it often shows up sort of mistakenly. To be able to pull it all together will actually be a more comprehensive way to get all that, customer sentiment analysis.
I found that really discouraging that there's less than one. It's almost like half of a written review is left for every 100 orders. It was really discouraging on one hand. On the other hand, it made me think that Vine isn't as bad as we think. If you can get out of 30 orders, if you can get 10, 15 reviews, that's huge. So a little bit of a double sword there. But the next thing that I thought was really interesting that they launched, and frankly, Walmart has, forgive me, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they have a listing quality score. And in Walmart.com's marketplace, if you go in and you make the changes that Amazon is recommending, you will see a real impact on your revenue and your sales. But Amazon is adopting something similar, where they have these recommendations in the listing quality score, and they will tell you what they recommend you do. And then now they're going to add what the potential increase or the potential sales lift will be if you take that action, which sounds really cool. And, we'll see, and we'll run some internal tests over here to see if the lift really does happen. But that was kind of an exciting thing as well to add to, listing recommendations, and the fact that they're going to show the revenue impact of not doing certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there's certain things that are very practical that you can have data on, like, hey, you're doing everything merchant fulfilled. If you add Prime, this is going to give you this kind of lift.
Yeah.
There's other things that are a little more, people could even say, oh, look, you have one image, you should add 5 additional images. That's where we get into more of the, art plus science of things, because it's not just about adding 5 additional images. It's about adding 5 additional good quality images, or saying, you don't have A+ content, add A+ content. But, for those of you who listened to our episode or watched our episode with Danielle Boltzmann a few weeks ago, the quality, the level of execution makes a huge difference. Right. So that's always that balance between here's analytical data versus the creative side that's really hard to put a number next to of how good a listing is optimized. And I think that there's some really good potential opportunity. very minimum, make sellers aware of, you're not doing everything you can or should do to take advantage of the Amazon platform. I think that's the most important part. The second side is make sure that if you're going to do it, execute it well.
And my biggest fear is that our clients call us and say, hey, why didn't you do this thing that Amazon did? And we say, because that's a bad idea. That's my biggest fear in some of these recommendations, but I know it'll get better over time. Going back to the search analytics dashboard for a second, the search catalog and query performance information had some really exciting stuff where you can actually download.
This is huge.
You can download these now. And you can get ASIN level view on keywords and keyword performance that also includes actionable insights and the sales lift from some of these. So that's, I know I think you said it on the breakout session on this one. Tell us a little bit more about this. Why are you so excited about this one?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always been about data. And we've talked about brand owners, several years ago clamoring and saying, hey, look, we are doing all this revenue through Amazon and we have no data. We have no information. And that was the tension, the ultimate tension of direct to consumer website versus Amazon. Direct to consumer website, I get all the data. Amazon, I got none. Now with brand registry and brand analytics, the ability to get some demographic data is huge. But we've always been begging for things like how many, what's my conversion rate or what's my click-through rate organically? What keywords am I organically ranking for? Who are the top competitors for those keywords? And so Amazon has done a good job being very responsive of rolling out some of those additional data points to allow sellers to know what's going on. And it really does benefit the seller and Amazon, because if we know how to optimize better, we can actually increase sales, and Amazon wins as a direct result of that. So the download is huge. I'm crossing my fingers for API. They said 2023. It might be late 2023, early 2024, but I think that's going to be a game changer. When you get search query and data analytics that can go right into the API, it's going to change everything about the industry.
It'll certainly change it for us and our clients as we're building out our proprietary software that would benefit greatly from a search engine API. So I couldn't agree more. Just great stuff. I remember having a conversation with my friend, CEO of Pluggables, or actually he's downgraded him. He's the CTO now, founder of Pluggables, Bernie Thompson, saying, man, if Amazon is sharing this keyword data, it's got to be straight from the source. And it's got to be better than any of the other tools that provide this stuff via scraping, et cetera. So really exciting. That keyword stuff can really help you grow your business. Moving on.
Well, a quick comment on that one, Jason. The brands that are going to win on Amazon, it's not just about doing really good SEO keyword research over here, doing really great creative over here, doing customer sentiment analysis and review analysis and avatars over here, and then advertising over here. It's the brands who can tie it all together. And I think that's what gives us a competitive advantage as an agency, is our teams work so closely together and so well that the SEO in your listing is shared with the advertising team. Data that comes back from product reviews gets put into a listing re-optimization. And as Amazon gives us more of this data, we can tile these things together. That's really what gives you that competitive edge, is not looking at these things as isolated silos, but actually putting them all together, and how you orchestrate this collective strategy to do all of those things well in a very comprehensive and holistic manner.
Absolutely. Another one that, I kind of glossed over it, but it's worth noting, Amazon, along this lines of becoming a service business, more of their revenue comes from services now than their own retail by pretty big magnitude. Right. But they're offering Amazon customer service. Now, the letters they gave us were CSBA. So customer service by Amazon. I guess that's what it stands for. So Amazon, for your own direct-to-consumer website, you can now hire Amazon to do customer service. I got to tell you, I didn't get too excited about this one, Shannon, because judging by some of the responses our team gets from seller support, I don't think I want them doing customer service for my brand. And it's tough to outsource customer service, especially when it comes to product knowledge, et cetera. But it's clear that they're putting all of their eggs in this service basket.
Yeah. I mean, I think for specific companies, maybe, technical products, that you can get really technical answers, 24-hour customer phone support, chat, and the ability for customers to get customer support in their own language of choice, right? These are things that most brand owners cannot provide on their own. And so where it makes sense, where it's a good fit, it's certainly worth testing. I don't know what the buy-in is or how long you have to sign, but yeah, I'm with you. Every chance we get, or every chance I get as a brand owner, I always want to have direct contact with my customers. I want every single person who talks to them. That's what Howard Schultz says about Starbucks. These are our employees on the front line. They're actually talking to our customers every day. We want that to be the best, interaction possible. So to outsource that direct engagement, probably not a good idea for many brands, but for a few, it could be really beneficial.
And another announcement, a company called Veeco, Veeqo, was acquired by Amazon. I can't remember if it was this year or late last year, but best I could tell, Shannon, I had never heard of Veeco, but best I could tell, they're basically a ship station for free. So Amazon bought this software as a service company that it acts as a ship station and allows you from your computer to create labels and send products to your Amazon shoppers, especially if you're FBM. And, it seemed like a great service. Amazon just bought this company, took this player off the chessboard, and now is offering this service for sellers for free. I got to tell you, I had mixed feelings about this one. Kind of excited for sellers who don't have this, but I was feeling really bad for ShipStation. They've been in the game for decades. They've got a great product.
Yeah.
They make money. They have employees. So here's Amazon taking a piece off the board. And I don't know. I guess I had mixed feelings about it. I'm happy for sellers who are going to get this service for free, but also hopeful. I'm hopeful that ShipStation can still maintain their place in the market as well.
Yeah, it is a good question. I've been a long-term fan of ShipStation. They've saved our bacon on several occasions with many of the clients that I've worked with. And it depends on how well they can compete, how well Veeco can compete. And again, they're giving it away for free because they're getting something in return, right? Anytime you get something for free, you have to ask what the cost is. It's one more way that Amazon can be fully integrated into the other parts of your business. And so,
and you can use that. You can use that tool to ship to your Walmart customers, to your eBay customers, and if Veeco's doing it for free, you better believe all that data is going to Amazon. So.
Yeah. So it's always a double-sided coin, but I haven't used it, so I can't speak to how well the software is. I guess we'll see.
The next item on my list is seller forums. We're getting close to the end here, Shannon. It was really a smorgasbord of offerings. The seller forums team got on stage and talked about some improvements and an upcoming relaunch. In fact, I think they said they were going to relaunch it at the show. I haven't checked since we've been back, Shannon. But, look, certainly Amazon, like most companies, platforms, aren't great with documentation, but seller forums is a great place to go to see exactly what sellers are experiencing, and they may have a solution. Folks, folks in this community like to share when they're able to solve a problem. And so, I'm sort of excited about the seller forums relaunch. I hope it provides more value and it gives more of a community feel than what we've experienced in the past. So, again, here they are. Here's an example, Shannon, where they're listening. They realize that it could be better, and they're putting resources, time, money, and developers behind a relaunch. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great time in sort of the common area where they had all the tables and stuff set up for meals, and actually sat down with 3 of the developers who worked in seller forums. And, they sort of asked, like, what's been your experience with it? And I said, the great thing is, yes, it's a place that people can go to ask questions. I said, the challenge is, sort of there's 2 biggest challenges. Number one is sometimes people just go on there to bitch and complain.
Yeah, right.
So that's one side.
Sometimes
it's just sort of like a vent. Yeah, and it just drops into the ether. But sometimes people just go on. People just go on there to vent. I said the other challenge, the real challenge is, well, Amazon employees will occasionally go on to provide an answer. Most of the seller answers leave something to be desired. It doesn't mean, sometimes you say, oh, you should try this or you should try that. I haven't seen those recommendations always be that great. So I said the success of seller forums depends more on quality sellers getting in there and providing valuable information. And guess what? Most of them are all busy running their businesses. I mean, that's kind of the challenge. And they nodded their heads and they got it.
Or they're calling us,
it is a place
us to solve these problems. Right?
Yeah,
it's true.
So it is a place for people to engage, and it's great to be able to search something if it's not already written up in Amazon's manuals. But there's always going to be that dual tension that actually requires sellers to step up and proactively participate and answer questions and do so in an honest manner and in a manner that's valuable.
Yeah, and I
and
think
helpful.
that feedback applies with Google too. I had a problem with Google Drive, and I tried to get an answer from Google, and it was a forum, and everyone was complaining instead of answering it. So I think it's probably what you're describing, Shannon, is spot on. It's I think something that's endemic with forums in general.
Yeah.
If they could find a rating system better, find some way to reward folks who leave really good feedback that solves problems, that'd be great.
Yeah.
The next one is something called Express Payouts. And this is a situation where Amazon is now working closely with a number of banks. If your bank is an approved bank, then within 24 hours, your deposit will hit. So I didn't really know that this was a thing, that this was a delay. In the old days, we used to get our money every 2 weeks on the dot right away. I think what I wanted to do is jump up and down and say, hey, over here, what about these reserve payments? Stop holding sellers' money for so long. You guys can do better here. But sadly, I was not allowed to ask the question, and it did not come up as a topic.
Yeah, I did ask that question. It's funny, you and I asked the exact same questions, and I said, does this apply to reserves? And the guy goes, no, sorry. Okay. So, and look, I understand Amazon's point on this. Going back a couple of years, there were sellers, again, bad actors who were going on, creating Amazon accounts, listing thousands of products, creating fake tracking numbers. And then Amazon would give them that first deposit. They would take that money and close the account and run. Yep. And so Amazon's reserve is there for a reason. I understand it. But over time, it is imperative that as a seller becomes trusted, as Amazon knows the return rate, those numbers, that reserve has to go down, because it's cash flow. To have eternal cash flow sort of tied up in Amazon isn't something that's good for sellers. And I think it needs to be mitigated.
It creates out of stocks. So. It creates angst. It creates disappointment. And I agree. I hope that they will continue to tighten that down as time goes by. I got 3 more left, if you can believe it, Shannon. Only 3 left. Manage Your Experiments, which is Amazon's internal A/B testing system. You can currently you can A/B test a main image. You can A/B test a product title, and I believe A+ details. And so, what was really exciting news is now you'll be able to A/B test bullet points. And this is a great one, because I know our creative team often comes forward with some bullet points, and then we have to explain ourselves to the client. It'll be great to have them give us their version that they want, and then we can test our version and see which is best, because we're certainly not married to anything. So the bullet point A/B testing was exciting. Yeah. You have the ability to auto-publish the winner, so you don't have to wait for this extended period of time anymore. And then also an A/B test, the second it reaches statistical relevance, you can then auto-publish the winner from there as well. So a couple of very nice updates and changes. I would love, I wanted to jump up and down and say, can we A/B test additional images, alt images? And again, I couldn't ask the question and they didn't give an answer. But hopefully maybe that will become in next year's Amazon Accelerate when we're there, Shannon.
Yeah, one of the conversations I had around A/B testing and Manage Your Experiments was about this tool that we use called PickFu. And people are sort of saying, well, why do you need PickFu if you use Manage Your Experiments? And people sort of looking at it as an either or. And I look at it, PickFu as the predecessor or the precursor to Manage Your Experiments, meaning when you manage your experiments on Amazon, you are playing with live sales data. And if you have a secondary image or product features that wind up severely underperforming, that can really handicap sales pretty significantly. Not everything is A/B testable, right? But what I actually like to do is we use PickFu to look at some additional primary product images or even additional product images and some of those features and stuff beforehand. Once we get a good sense of maybe the top winners, those are the ones that we put into the Manage Your Experiments on Amazon, because we're playing with something that has already sort of passed a level of relevance and sort of that quality control. And so I actually think that there's a place for both of them. And I like to make sure that I'm providing really good images to Amazon to play with my live sales data, before I just sort of give them something cold that could, tank, depend on how long it's up. So just feedback on that, but love the fact that we're able to do product features now. And just like you, I would love to see the ability to do, the additional product images, because a lot of sellers don't really know what to
Right.
put there and how they should optimize those images.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. A lot of announcements for FBA. There's apparently a button now, the ability to request more space. Amazon just contracted a lot of the units available to send into FBA as they get ready for the holiday season. And if you are deemed worthy by some algorithm, I'm sure you can actually push a button and request more space, which is kind of cool. It's better than having to do that through the seller support ticket or through an FBA ticket or through an email escalation. They've increased the shipment quantity per shipment from up to 5,000. I know that our clients have run into this a lot, Shannon, where you used to only be able to do 1,000. Now you can do 5,000. That's a 5x increase, which is great. That helps get that freight in cost per unit down. There's a new FBA dashboard that is either launching or will launch in a matter of days. And then they've mentioned they had some new send to Amazon improvements. I think probably the most interesting one to me is there's a new summary of shipments view. It's a little bit like herding cats, trying to figure out what your shipment is, what's in it, and all that. And so, again, here's another example, Shannon. We've been talking about this from the beginning, where Amazon listened to the feedback from sellers. They've been telling them specific things that they want to see, and they're doing their best in order to address some of those concerns. So I'm happy for Nick and Al and our team to be able to have a little bit more visibility.
Absolutely. Are we going to talk about the escalation button? Is that on your list? Is that near the
I
end,
think I forgot to put it on. Let's hit it. This is an interesting one.
Request an escalation.
Tell us how you understood it and what your take is, Shannon.
I understood it as the request an escalation, stop emailing Dharmesh Mehta button, which was very clearly how it came across. That wasn't my interpretation.
I think they used those words.
They said,
Dharmesh is getting too many emails. Stop sending Dharmesh Mehta escalation emails.
So a pro and a con, right? Pro and a con. So the pro is, again, Amazon's listening. They said that they've got tenured employees who have a higher level of experience and understanding to be able to look at these cases, examine them. And I think that's great. My question, and then the conversation I had with a lot of sellers, is the first day they launch this and open this, are 3,000 people all going to submit, escalate my case? And we know, because we've got a great department that handles reinstatements and escalations with catalog and everything. If you don't have your case mapped out, I don't care how many times you escalate it. If you don't have the right information or aren't asking for the right things in the right way, it's never going to happen. But the other side is, if seller support and in particular brand registry support were better trained, better equipped, or in some cases just actually read the emails, there would be no need for an escalate your case button. And I think that's kind of the challenge of, you're solving a symptom, not a problem. You're providing here's some nasal rinse for your runny nose, not actually here's medicine that you need to help get over your cold so that the runny nose is stopped permanently. So I think of it as a positive step in the right direction. The question becomes, how will it play out? And will Amazon continue to do those things at the earlier stages so that request and escalation button is required less by sellers?
The best comment I love the most of what you said is, if we could just get seller support to actually read the email instead of reply. And look, I know these lower level folks. I mean, I've spoken to some of them who've worked at BPO companies that respond, and many times they're not allowed to type anything. They just have to select the response.
Yeah.
And they've got hundreds coming in constantly. So they just select the wrong one all the time. How many times, Shannon, have you or our support team over here at AV7 had to say, you answered a question I didn't ask. Why don't we go back and start with that? But you're right. They're addressing the symptoms here. I also think, it's really a shame, because the email escalations is something that we do. All the way up to Andy Jassy if necessary. It typically doesn't get to that, but we follow very specific steps. We try and use seller support. We file tickets. We give them all of the information before submitting to Dharmesh. I think what happens in the seller community sometimes is they're pissed, they're frustrated, they're losing sales, and they skip those very important steps. And they don't first submit a seller support ticket. They don't reference it. In some cases, they're escalating to Dharmesh or now Doug Harrington or others, and they've violated terms of service, and they're expecting Amazon to understand their sob story, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's a shame. I did have this fantasy or this vision that everyone who hits that escalate Amazon, it goes to like your trash bin or something. But I don't know. I don't know how they're going to be able to respond to all of them, because my guess is that, especially in the early days, it's going to be misused. And if they could just get better training down to their first tier support, you wouldn't need to hit that escalate button.
Well, and this is the dichotomy that I spoke to very honestly with Amazon employees. I said, Amazon has a double standard where if something happens and Amazon asked me to write an appeal, a plan of action, if I grab a template plan of action, even if it addresses the issue, but it's sort of a standard template off the internet and use that, they already know, and they're literally going to dump it in the trash. But Amazon allows its employees to send template emails all the time that don't address the issue. I think that, again, that's a double standard that hurts sellers and ultimately hurts Amazon, because instead of opening one case and getting it resolved, we open 50 cases. I mean, I had a client last year where it took me 6 months and I probably opened 50 cases, Jason. Can you imagine all the sort of wasted time, mine and Amazon's, if that first person had been trained, understood what the problem was, and resolved it? So I think there's a win-win here as they are, grow willing to invest in those lower tier, employees, no less valuable, but lower tier, to be able to read and respond and be able to provide a custom answer. And the education piece is obviously.
Yeah, and if nothing else, they're going to get real world click data on how many times someone messaged seller support and didn't get their problem solved. So that should I think that will be very eye-opening. I feel badly for the folks that have to respond. But yeah, look, we're coming to the last one here, Shannon, believe it or not. Account health rating update. So a little bit vague on details from the folks at Amazon, but there's a program called the Account Health Assurance that if you're part of this program, as best I could understand it, and you respond quickly to whatever the reason for the takedown either on your account or ASIN level was, if you respond quickly to the flag that Amazon is waving, then there will be no takedowns. Everyone, my entire row, I looked to my left, I looked to my right, everyone was like, huh? What does that mean? How do you get into this program? What is this program? And they just didn't go into more details. So everyone was sort of left with a question mark over their head. But the next one actually drew one of the few applause moments at Amazon Accelerate, which is if you have an if you have an account health problem, you can now select the Call Me Now button to roaring applause. That was announced to roaring applause, which I thought was really funny. These, again, it's to the point. There's a theme throughout these, Shannon. The theme is from Doug Harrington down, from Dharmesh Mehta down, we're listening to you. We get it. We know that this is important. And we're trying to take steps as quickly as possible to address your issues. And so, I got to tip my cap to Amazon, and I'm really glad that I went to Accelerate. I'll be going next year, and hopefully it's more of the same, more updates and more improvements. What's your final take, Shannon?
Yeah. Well, in regards to the account health, I have really been impressed with, and I know some of the Amazon people who have helped create those programs to change that. Whereas previously I worked with a seller and they were late on shipping and their Seller Central account just got shut down. Whereas now Amazon actually gives you a little more grace, shall I say, and they'll have an account health rep reach out to you, schedule a call. Hey, do you understand the problem? Do you know what happened? I think there is a gap, and Leah McHugh from e-commerce Chris has mentioned that seller account health team doesn't talk directly, nor do they speak for the seller performance team that's going to suspend you. So they may not always give you the most accurate information. They are there to help, but it's not like they could say, oh, don't worry about this. You just do X, Y, and Z and you got it covered. Seller performance may think differently. So again, Amazon operates in silos.
With the right hand.
Yeah, what the right hand's doing. But at the highest level, there is this algorithm versus human interaction theme that we've seen and discussed about Amazon. on one hand, Amazon has built things by algorithms. They have scaled with algorithms, with things that can be done through, computer automation. What sellers are often saying is, I want to talk to a human being. And yet I recognize as a seller and, working at an agency, if Amazon relied solely on that human interaction and did not work so ruthlessly to build out those algorithms, Amazon wouldn't be the platform that it is. We wouldn't be fighting over the market share to sell on Amazon because they'd have 15%, 5%. So we have to honor that system that was created by algorithms. But the comment that I made to several people, including in the brand protection department, was, it's great that we've got these algorithms. What happens when the algorithms fail? You have to provide human interaction to solve that problem, because it's not okay for somebody's product to get taken down because Amazon decided to flag a specific keyword and got caught up in the algorithm, or a patent infringement or a copyright infringement didn't go through because of some nuance. We've got to be able to escalate things personally when the algorithm fails. And inability to do that, we're talking about Terminator 2, right? That's kind of, what we're looking at.
Look, in the final analysis here, it was a really good show. It was, like you said, high production value. It was great to see the leaders that make some of these decisions for sellers on stage, owning and listening and moving forward with some fixes. I will say this, and we won't talk about it on this episode because this is an attaboy to Amazon episode in terms of their conference. But it was, the California Attorney General's office announced while I was standing on the floor that they were going to sue Amazon to stop this practice of buy box suppression and other tactics that suppress competition. So they kept a good stiff upper lip. I don't think Amazon's afraid of it. I think they should be if they're not. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a future episode, and I'll give my take on it. But overall, terrific show. I'll be back. Agreed. So it was good seeing you too, Shannon, seeing you live. I know you're in Atlanta. I'm out in LA. So it was good to hang out and have dinner and, get connected a little bit more in IRL, in real life.
Yeah, it was good to catch up.
Awesome.
Always.
So if you're ready to start growing and protecting your brand on Amazon with a team of experienced Amazon operators, you can visit us at day2podcast.com. That's day2podcast.com. Also, on that website, you can download a free Amazon checklist with all of the 2,500 things you need to do for success on Amazon. But please download it, cross-check it with your procedures, use it to become a better seller and grow your business. Lastly, if you know of anyone who would gain value from listening to this podcast, please share it with them. Thanks for listening and happy selling.